The rain hammered against the windows of Lee Taman's small apartment in Seoul. He sat at his desk, eyes fixed on his computer screen, finishing the last bits of code for a project due tomorrow morning. The clock showed 11:47 p.m. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. Then the sky outside exploded with light. Taman jumped from his chair as a brilliant flash turned night into day. Thunder cracked, but it wasn't thunder. The sound was wrong, metallic and sharp. His balcony doors rattled violently. Before he could move, something massive crashed through the glass. He threw himself to the floor, covering his head as shards rained down around him. When he looked up, his heart stopped. A woman stood in the wreckage of his balcony door. But she was no ordinary woman. She was nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin a deep purple color that seemed to shimmer in the dim light of his apartment. Strange glowing marks covered her arms and face, pulsing weakly like dying stars. She wore armor that looked like nothing Taman had ever seen, all black metal and strange angles, cracked and sparking with blue energy. Blood dripped from a wound in her side. The blood was red, surprisingly human, but darker somehow. She swayed on her feet, one hand pressed against the wall to keep from falling. Taman's mind raced. This couldn't be real. He was dreaming. He had fallen asleep at his desk, and this was just exhaustion playing tricks on him. But the cold wind blowing through his destroyed balcony door felt very real. The glass cutting into his palm felt very real. The woman's eyes found him. They were golden, like liquid metal and filled with pain. She opened her mouth and spoke, but the sounds made no sense. They were harsh and musical at the same time, like grinding metal mixed with bells. A small device on her collar sparked and whined. She slapped it hard with her palm. It sparked again, then suddenly her words changed. "Please," she said, her voice deep and rough. "Hunters! Coming! I need shelter!" Taman scrambled backward until his back hit his desk. "What? Who are you?" The woman took a step forward and nearly collapsed. She caught herself on his couch, leaving a smear of dark blood on the fabric. "No time. They tracked my pod. They'll be here soon. I just need one night. Please." "You crashed through my balcony." Taman heard his voice rising in pitch. "You're bleeding all over my apartment." "I should call the police. Your police cannot help." She pressed harder against her wound. More blood leaked between her fingers. "The ones hunting me, not from your world. They will kill anyone in their way. If you call your authorities, more will die." Taman's hand hovered over his phone. His rational mind screamed at him to call someone, anyone. But something in her eyes stopped him. Pain, yes, but also desperation and truth. "Are you an alien?" The word felt stupid coming out of his mouth. "Yes." She slid down to sit on his couch, breathing hard. "My name is Kirith. I am Valorian. I was a warrior of the Empire until—" She trailed off, her eyes losing focus. "Until what?" Taman asked, staying near his desk. "Until I learned what they plan to do to your world." Her golden eyes focused on him again. "I deserted. Stole information. Now they want me dead before I can share it." "What do they plan to do to Earth?" "Harvest it." Kirith said the words simply, like she was discussing the weather. "Your planet has resources the Empire wants. They've done it to 47 worlds already. Strip the valuable materials, leave the rest dead." Taman felt his stomach drop. That's insane. There are billions of people here. "Your people are classified as Level 3 sentients, too primitive to be recognized by galactic law. The Empire doesn't see you as people." She coughed, and more blood appeared on her lips. "I didn't either, until I read the full reports, saw what happens to the natives, children, families, all of them." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Taman made a decision that his rational mind said was completely crazy. He moved toward her slowly, hands visible. "Let me see your wound." Kirith watched him approach with suspicion. When he was close enough, she moved her hand away from her side. The gash was deep, cutting through her armor and into the flesh beneath. The edges glowed faintly, like something had burned her. "I have a first aid kit," Taman said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I don't know if it'll help with whatever you are, but it's better than nothing." He ran to his bathroom and grabbed his first aid kit from under the sink. His hands shook as he pulled out bandages, antiseptic, and medical tape. When he returned, Kirith had removed part of her chest armor. Her torso was muscular and covered in more of those glowing marks. "This is foolish," she said as he knelt beside her. "I'm a stranger, an alien. I could kill you easily, even wounded." "Yeah, probably." Taman poured antiseptic on a cloth. "But you asked for help instead. That means something." He pressed the cloth to her wound. She hissed in pain, but didn't pull away. As he worked, cleaning and bandaging as best he could, she studied him with those strange golden eyes. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lee Taman. I'm a software engineer. I live alone. I have no idea what I'm doing right now." A sound that might have been a laugh escaped her. "Honesty. That's unexpected. How long do we have before these hunters arrive?" Taman secured the bandage with medical tape. It probably wouldn't hold long, but it was the best he could do. "An hour. Maybe less." Kirith tested her side carefully. "They'll scan this building, find my energy signature, then they'll come." "What are they like?" "These hunters?" "Ruthless, well-armed, and they won't care about collateral damage." She looked around his small apartment. "This place won't hold them. Nothing on this world will." Taman stood up and walked to his destroyed balcony door. The city spread out below, millions of lights in the darkness. All those people going about their lives, not knowing that somewhere up there, aliens were real, and some of them wanted Earth dead. He thought about running, about telling Kirith to leave. But where would she go? And if what she said was true, if Earth was really in danger, then someone needed to know. Someone needed to help her. "Okay," he said, turning back to face her. "We have an hour. Tell me everything. What are we up against?" Kirith's expression shifted into something that might have been respect. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Lee Taman." "Probably both." He grabbed his cold coffee and drained it in one gulp. "But I did 2 years of mandatory military service. I know how to follow orders and I know how to fight, so start talking." Outside, the rain continued to fall, and somewhere above the clouds, hunters were coming. Morning light crept through the broken balcony door. Taman had covered the opening with a blanket, but it did little to keep out the cold. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, exhausted. He hadn't slept. How could he? An alien warrior sat on his couch, and somewhere out there, alien hunters were coming to kill her. Kirith looked better than she had last night. The bandages Taman had applied were soaked through with that dark red blood, but her breathing was steady. Her skin seemed brighter somehow, the glowing marks pulsing with more strength. "Your species heals fast," Taman observed. "Valorian physiology is superior in most ways." Kirith examined her wound carefully. "We were engineered for war generations ago. Fast healing, enhanced strength, improved reflexes, made us perfect soldiers." "Sounds lonely." She looked at him sharply. "What?" "Being made for just one purpose, fighting. Doesn't that get lonely?" Kirith was quiet for a long moment. "I never thought about it before." Taman's phone buzzed. He checked it quickly. Messages from work asking where he was. He ignored them. Work didn't matter anymore. Nothing normal mattered anymore. "The hunters should have been here by now," Kirith said, tension in her voice. "They're taking too long." "That's not right." "Maybe they gave up?" "Bounty hunters don't give up. The price on my head is 50 million credits, enough to buy a small moon." She stood up slowly, testing her movement. "They're planning something." A new sound cut through the morning air, a low humming that made Taman's teeth ache. He moved to the window and looked out. 3 figures stood in the street below, looking up at his building. They weren't human. One was covered in scales, walking on 2 legs like a person, but with a tail that swished behind it. Another looked like a giant insect standing upright, with too many arms and a head that twisted in ways that hurt to watch. The third was the worst. It was humanoid but clearly mechanical, half its face replaced with glowing red metal. "They're here," Taman whispered. Kirith moved beside him, looking down, her whole body tensed. "Scath, Vrel, and a Marauder unit. Professional team. They'll scan the building, locate us, then breach." "How long?" "Minutes." Taman's military training kicked in. His apartment was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 main living space, limited exits, bad tactical position, but he knew this building better than the hunters did. "Can they be killed?" he asked. "Yes, but I'm still weak, fighting all 3 at once." Kirith shook her head. "I might take 1, maybe 2. The third will finish us both." "Then we don't fight fair." Taman grabbed his phone and opened a notes app. He sketched quickly. "The building's electrical system runs through a panel in my bedroom closet. If we can lure them in and overload it at the right moment." Kirith studied his crude drawing. A smile crossed her face, showing sharp teeth. "You think like a warrior." "I think like someone who doesn't want to die." They worked fast. Taman stripped wires from his lamps and electronics, running them across his floor near the entrance. Kirith moved furniture, creating a maze that would slow the hunters down. She moved with grace despite her wound, every action purposeful. "The Vrel will come first," she explained as she overturned his desk. "It's the tracker, 6 limbs, armored exoskeleton, relies on tech more than instinct." "Weak points?" "The joints where the limbs connect to the body, and its brain is partially mechanical. Electricity might disrupt it." "Good." Taman connected more wires to the electrical panel. "What about the others?" "The Scath is a brute. Strong, fast, regenerates almost as well as I do. Fire or extreme cold might slow it down." She paused. "The Marauder is the real threat. Combat AI, weapons built into its body nearly impossible to surprise. That one I'll need to handle personally." A crash echoed through the building. Screams from other apartments. The hunters had entered. "Positions!" Kirith ordered. Taman hid in his bedroom, hands on the electrical panel. Kirith stood behind his overturned couch, her wounds making her look weaker than she was. Bait for a trap. The apartment door exploded inward. The Vrel came through first, exactly as Kirith predicted. Its insect head swiveled, scanning the room. Multiple eyes fixed on Kirith. It made a clicking sound that might have been speech. It stepped on the wires. Taman had disconnected them from power. They were just metal on the floor. The Vrel ignored them. Moving deeper into the apartment, 2 more steps, 3. Now it stood exactly where Taman needed it. He grabbed his laptop battery, the one he'd modified in the last hour, and threw it hard. The battery sailed through the doorway and struck the Vrel's back. At the same moment, Taman slammed the electrical panel into overload. Every wire in his apartment surged with power. The Vrel shrieked as electricity coursed through its body. Its exoskeleton, designed to protect against energy weapons, actually conducted the current through its entire system. Sparks flew from its joints, its mechanical brain fried with a sound like popping corn. The creature collapsed, twitching. "One down!" Taman shouted. The Scath charged through the door, roaring. It saw its fallen teammate and its eyes locked on Taman. The scaled creature was fast, impossibly fast. It crossed the apartment in seconds. Taman grabbed the pot of boiling water he'd prepared on his camping stove. He threw it directly into the Scath's face. The creature screamed and stumbled backward, clawing at its eyes. Taman didn't wait. He grabbed the kitchen knife from his belt, and drove it into the soft spot under the scath's jaw, the place where the scales met softer flesh. The scath grabbed Taman by the throat and lifted him off the floor. Its grip was like iron. Taman couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in his vision. Then Kirith was there. She moved like lightning, even wounded. Her fist struck the scath's temple with a crack like breaking stone. The creature dropped Taman and turned to face her. They exchanged blows too fast for Taman to follow. But Kirith was smiling now, the warrior in her element. She caught the scath's arm, twisted, and broke it at the elbow. While it howled in pain, she grabbed Taman's knife from its throat and drove it home through the eye. The scath fell and didn't get up. "Two down!" Kirith panted. "Where's the—" A red beam of light burned through her shoulder. The marauder stood in the doorway, one arm transformed into a plasma cannon. Its mechanical eye glowed as it targeted Kirith for another shot. She dove behind the couch. The next beam set his furniture on fire. "Taman!" she shouted. "Run! This one's too much!" But Taman wasn't running. He grabbed the fire extinguisher from his kitchen and moved along the wall, staying low. The marauder focused on Kirith, tracking her movements. It didn't see Taman as a threat, just a weak human. That was its mistake. Taman came up behind it and discharged the entire extinguisher into the marauder's exposed back mechanisms. White foam covered its joints and servos. The machine's movements stuttered. Kirith didn't waste the opening. She leaped over the burning couch and drove her hand into the marauder's chest, right where Taman's foam had gummed up its defensive plating. Her fingers found wires and circuits and tore. The marauder's eye flickered and died. Silence fell over the apartment, broken only by the crackling of flames and their heavy breathing. Kirith looked at Taman, then at the three dead hunters, then back at Taman. "You killed a Vrel with a battery and house wires. And you said humans were primitive." Taman grabbed his small fire extinguisher and sprayed the burning couch. "I was wrong." Kirith touched her new shoulder wound gingerly. "Your people might be more dangerous than I thought," a voice called from the hallway. "Taman! Taman, what's happening? I heard fighting." Taman's blood went cold. He knew that voice. His younger sister, Park Yuna, appeared in the destroyed doorway. She wore hospital scrubs, having just finished a night shift at the medical center. Her eyes went wide as she took in the scene. The dead aliens, the destroyed apartment, Kirith standing there with glowing purple skin and fresh wounds. "Hi, Yuna," Taman said weakly. "This is Kirith. She's from space. We have a lot to talk about." Yuna fainted. Yuna woke up on what was left of Taman's couch. Her brother knelt beside her, concern clear on his face. Behind him, the purple-skinned alien woman watched with those unsettling golden eyes. "Please don't faint again," Taman said gently. "I need you to stay calm." Yuna sat up slowly, her medical training pushing past the shock. She looked at Kirith's wounds, her professional instincts taking over. "She's hurt. Badly. That shoulder needs treatment." "Can you help her?" Taman asked. "I don't know. I've never treated an alien before." Yuna stood up on shaky legs. "But anatomy is anatomy. Let me see." Kirith sat down and let Yuna examine her. The young doctor worked carefully, asking questions about Valorian physiology. Kirith answered, surprised by the intelligent questions. Yuna cleaned the plasma burn on her shoulder and bandaged it properly. "Your regeneration is incredible," Yuna said as she worked. "The wound from last night is already half healed, but this burn is different. The tissue is damaged at a deeper level. Plasma weapons cauterize as they cut," Kirith explained. "Slower to heal. I'll need proper supplies. My hospital has—" Yuna stopped, looking at the dead hunters on the floor. "We can't stay here, can we?" "No," Kirith said. "More will come. The bounty is too high. Every hunter in the sector will be heading to Earth now." Taman's phone rang. He answered without thinking. "Hello? Taman, where are you? The news is showing strange things happening across Seoul. Some kind of attack, buildings damaged, people saying they saw aliens. It was Choi Dae-ho, his friend from military service. Are you safe? Taman looked at the destroyed apartment and the alien warrior sitting on his couch. Define safe. That's not funny, man. I'm serious. Police are saying to stay inside. Dae-ho, I need your help. And you're going to think I'm crazy, but I need you to trust me. What's going on? Aliens are real. They're hunting someone I'm helping. I need weapons, supplies, and a way out of the city. Silence on the line. Then, you're right. That sounds crazy. I know, but it's true. Please, Dae-ho. You said after we finished service that if I ever needed anything, you'd be there. I need you now. More silence. Then a sigh. I work private security now. I can get some things. Where are you? Taman gave him the address. And Dae-ho? Bring everything you can. This is going to get worse before it gets better. While they waited, Kirith explained everything. She told them about the Valorian Empire, about their plans for Earth. She showed them the data device hidden in her armor, a small crystal that held proof of everything. 5 years, she said. That's when they plan to begin harvesting. They're already positioning ships at the edge of your solar system. Your primitive sensors can't detect them yet. Why tell us now? Yuna asked. Why desert and risk your life? Kirith was quiet for a moment. I've been a soldier my whole life. Fought in 17 campaigns, conquered 6 worlds. I never questioned orders. Then they sent me to Earth for reconnaissance. I spent 3 months here hidden, studying your people. And? Taman prompted. And you're nothing like what the Empire says. You're not primitive. You're not simple. You create art and music. You care for your sick. You fight for ideas, not just resources. You're chaotic and messy and beautiful. She looked at both of them. The Empire exterminates inconvenient species all the time. But you're not inconvenient. You're people. And I couldn't be part of your extinction. Yuna wiped her eyes. So you stole the evidence and ran? Yes. I was going to take it to the Galactic Council, but the Empire intercepted my ship. I barely escaped in a pod. Earth was the closest refuge. Kirith touched the crystal. If I can get to a strong enough transmitter, I can broadcast this data across the galaxy. Force the Council to intervene. Save your world. What kind of transmitter? Taman asked. Something powerful, long range, capable of sending signals into deep space. The radio telescope facility, Yuna said suddenly. Outside the city. It's huge, powerful. My colleague Jihoon works there sometimes. He's a tech expert, helps maintain the systems. Can you contact him? Kirith asked. Yuna nodded and pulled out her phone. She made the call, spoke quickly, then hung up. He'll meet us there. But he says it's a 3-hour drive, and the roads out of Seoul are packed. Everyone's trying to leave because of the attacks. A knock at the door made them all tense. Taman moved to answer it carefully. Dae-ho stood there carrying 2 large bags. He froze when he saw Kirith. Holy... He couldn't finish the sentence. Dae-ho, meet Kirith. Kirith, this is Choi Dae-ho, my oldest friend. Dae-ho set down his bag slowly, never taking his eyes off the alien. She's real. Aliens are real. And they're coming to kill her, Taman said. We need to get her to a radio telescope to broadcast evidence that will save Earth. You in? Dae-ho looked at the dead hunters on the floor, at Kirith's wounds, at his friend's determined face. Then he opened his bags and started pulling out equipment. 2 handguns, ammunition, body armor, a tactical radio. I'm in, but we're going to need a better plan than just driving there. They spread out a map of Seoul on the floor. Kirith pointed to areas where she'd detected other hunter signals. The city was surrounded. Any major road out would be watched. We go underground, Taman suggested. The subway tunnels. Some of them extend beyond the city limits. We could use them to get past the hunter perimeter. The tunnels will be dark and dangerous, Daiho said. Safer than the streets. Taemin looked at Kirath. Can you fight in close quarters? Better than in the open. Hunters rely on their tech and weapons. Take that advantage away and it's just combat. She smiled, that sharp-toothed smile. I'm very good at combat. Yuna called Ji-hoon again, explaining the plan. He agreed to meet them at a specific tunnel exit north of the city. They had a route. They had a plan. Now they just needed to survive long enough to execute it. As they gathered supplies and prepared to leave, news reports started flooding in. Strange ships spotted over major cities worldwide. Attacks in Tokyo, New York, London. The hunters weren't just after Kirath anymore. They were making a statement. They want to scare your governments, Kirath explained. Show them that resistance is futile. Standard Empire tactic. They don't know humans very well then, Daiho said, checking his gun. We don't scare easy. Kirath looked at these three humans who had chosen to help her. Taemin, who had saved her life with nothing but household items and courage. Yuna, who had treated her wounds without hesitation. Daiho, who had walked into insanity because his friend asked. In all her years serving the Empire, she had never had comrades like this. Valorians fought together out of duty, not choice. But these humans had chosen this path. Chosen her. Chosen to fight for their world. The Empire calls your species weak, she said quietly. They're wrong. Your strength isn't in your bodies or your technology. It's in this. What you're doing right now. Standing together, refusing to give up. That's what humans do, Taemin said simply. We might be primitive by your standards, but we're stubborn. And when you threaten our home, we don't run. We fight. They left the apartment through the back stairway, moving quickly through the building. Other residents were hiding, terrified by the morning's violence. Taemin felt guilty for bringing this to his home, but there was no time for regrets. They reached the street and moved toward the nearest subway entrance. The city was in chaos. Police sirens wailed. People ran in every direction. And above it all, strange ships circled like vultures. Stay close, Kirath ordered. Move fast. Don't engage unless necessary. They descended into the subway tunnels. The lights flickered. Emergency announcements echoed through the corridors. Down here in the dark, the hunt would continue. But now Kirath wasn't alone. She had allies. She had humans. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The subway tunnels were darker than Taemin expected. Emergency lights cast long shadows that moved and shifted with every step. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. The air smelled of concrete and electricity. Kirath led the way, her glowing marks providing extra light. She moved like a ghost, silent despite her size. Behind her came Taemin and Daiho, guns ready. Yuna brought up the rear, carrying the medical supplies she'd grabbed from her hospital. They had been walking for 30 minutes when Kirath stopped suddenly. What is it? Taemin whispered. Scanning pulses. They found our trail. Her marks pulsed brighter for a moment. 3 signatures, different from the ones at your apartment. They're ahead of us, cutting off our path. Can we go around? Daiho asked. Not enough time. They'll adjust. We have to go through them. Taemin checked his gun. Daiho had given him a brief lesson in his apartment, but he'd never fired at a living target before. What's the plan? I go first. Draw their fire. You two flank. Aim for the joints, the head, anything that looks vulnerable. Don't try to be heroes. These hunters are experienced killers. They moved forward carefully. The tunnel opened into a wider station, abandoned and dark. 3 figures waited there. One was similar to the scath they'd fought before, but larger and covered in darker scales. The second was humanoid, but made entirely of some kind of liquid metal that shifted and flowed. The third looked almost human, except for the extra pair of arms and the crystals growing from its skull. Kirith the deserter, the liquid metal one spoke, its voice echoing strangely. 50 million credits, dead or alive. We prefer dead. You'll have to earn it, Kirith replied. The fight erupted. Kirith charged the liquid metal hunter, her movements fluid despite her wounds. Taemin and Deho split up, targeting the others. The four-armed hunter moved toward Taemin, impossibly fast. Taemin fired 3 times. 2 shots missed. One hit the hunter's shoulder and bounced off the crystals. The hunter laughed and swung at him with 2 arms while the other 2 pulled strange weapons. Taemin dove behind a support pillar. Energy blasts struck where he'd been standing, melting the concrete. His heart hammered. This was nothing like his military training. This was real. If he made a mistake, he died. Taemin! Daiho shouted. The crystals! They're directing energy! Taemin understood. He waited for the hunter to come around the pillar, then aimed carefully at the largest crystal on its head. He fired. The crystal shattered. The hunter screamed and stumbled. Its energy weapons flickered and died. Taemin didn't waste the moment. He fired again, hitting another crystal, then another. Each shot made the hunter weaker. Daiho appeared from the other side and tackled the hunter low. They crashed to the ground together. The hunter still had 4 arms, but without its weapons, it was just muscle. Daiho had trained in hand-to-hand combat for years. He broke one arm at the elbow, then another. The hunter stopped moving. Meanwhile, Kirith fought the liquid metal hunter in a brutal dance. Every time she struck it, her hand passed through like water. Every time it struck her, the impact was solid as stone. She was bleeding from new cuts, breathing hard. "It's a Morphian!" she shouted. "Vulnerable when it attacks. Wait for it to solidify." The Morphian reformed its arm into a blade and slashed at her. She dodged left, and Yuna, who had been waiting for her moment, threw a bottle of medical alcohol. The liquid splashed across the Morphian's surface. Taemin didn't understand why until he saw Kirith smile. She pulled a lighter from one of the dead hunters and threw it. The Morphian ignited. Fire and liquid metal apparently didn't mix well. The hunter shrieked and lost its form, collapsing into a burning puddle that spread across the floor. The flames reflected in Kirith's golden eyes. The large scath was the last one standing. It had been fighting Deho, but now faced all 4 of them. It looked at its dead companions, then at them. Calculating odds, it ran. "Let it go," Kirith said. "We need to move. That fight will have attracted attention." They ran through the tunnels. Taking turns, Kirith called out. Her internal navigation was impressive, mapping routes Taemin couldn't see. They emerged from one tunnel into another, this one with old maintenance tracks. "Where are we?" Yuna asked, breathing hard. "Under the Han River," Taemin said, recognizing the curved walls. "These are the old tunnels they stopped using 10 years ago." A new sound reached them. Footsteps. Many footsteps, coming from multiple directions. "They've called in reinforcements," Kirith said. "We're not going to make it to the exit point like this." "Then we need help." Taemin pulled out his phone. Surprisingly, he had signal this deep. He opened a social media app and started typing. "What are you doing?" Daiho asked. "Asking for help." Taemin posted quickly, explaining where they were, what they needed. He tagged it with emergency keywords, location data, everything he could think of. Humans are good at one thing, spreading information fast. "You think strangers will help us?" Kirith sounded doubtful. "I think people are scared and angry. Someone attacked their city. Maybe they'll surprise you." They kept moving. The footsteps behind them grew closer. Ahead, a maintenance ladder led up to street level. They climbed quickly, emerging in a narrow alley near Gangnam. A taxi sat at the end of the alley, engine running. The driver, a middle-aged man named Kim Minho, waved at them frantically. "Get in! I saw your post! Hurry!" They piled into the taxi. Minho drove like a madman, weaving through traffic. "I saw those things attacking people this morning. Killed a woman right in front of me. Just disintegrated her." His hands shook on the wheel. Where do you need to go? North. Out of the city, Taman said. The roads are blocked. Checkpoints everywhere. But I know some back ways. Minho turned down a side street. My daughter, she's only 8. If those things are here to hurt us, I want to help stop them. A police car pulled up beside them at a red light. An officer, Detective Han Sora, looked over and saw Kirath in the back seat. Her eyes went wide. She grabbed her radio. Drive! Deho shouted. Minho hit the gas. They ran the red light, cars honking around them. The police car followed, siren wailing. We can't outrun them, Yuna said. But then something strange happened. The police car pulled alongside them again. Detective Sora rolled down her window and shouted, Follow me! I'll get you through! She pulled ahead, clearing a path with her siren. Other cars moved aside. Taman stared in disbelief. They drove for 10 minutes before Sora pulled over. She got out and approached their taxi. Her hand was on her gun, but she didn't draw it. I was going to arrest you, she said, looking at Kirath. But then I saw one of those hunters kill a civilian who got in its way. Just erased him like he was nothing. She holstered her weapon. If you're running from them, maybe you're not the enemy. We're trying to save this world, Kirath said simply. Sora studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. What do you need? Safe passage north, to the radio telescope facility. I can help with that. Sora pulled out her radio. I have friends on the force, good people. Let me make some calls. Within 20 minutes, they had an escort. 3 police cars, led by officers Sora trusted. They drove through Seoul as chaos erupted around them. Hunter ships circled overhead. Battles raged in the streets. But the police convoy pushed through, helping civilians when they could, fighting hunters when they had to. One officer died when a hunter ship fired on their car. Another was wounded. But they kept going, driven by something more than duty. They were defending their home. As they crossed the Han River on one of the northern bridges, Taman looked back at the city. Smoke rose from multiple points. Emergency lights flashed everywhere. This was war, whether Earth had asked for it or not. Your people surprise me, Kirath said quietly, watching the same scene. The Empire would have fled or surrendered by now. We're stubborn like that, Taman replied. They reached the edge of the city as the sun began to set. The radio telescope facility was another hour away. They could see it in the distance, the massive dish pointed at the sky. Kirath's expression grew grim. There are ships there. Hunters have surrounded the facility. How many? Deho asked. Too many. Detective Sora pulled her car alongside them. We see them. Looks like a full blockade. Taman looked at the assembled group. A taxi driver, a detective, a few brave cops, his sister, his best friend, and an alien warrior. Against hunter ships and professional killers, the odds were terrible. But they'd come this far. We need a plan, he said. A really good plan. The radio telescope facility sat in a valley surrounded by hills. 5 hunter ships circled above it, their dark hulls blotting out the evening stars. Ground forces had set up a perimeter. Taman counted at least 20 hunters from their position on the ridge. We can't fight that many, Yuna said quietly. No, Kirath agreed. Not directly. Jihoon, Yuna's colleague, had been waiting at a safe house near the facility. He was younger than Taman expected, barely out of university, with nervous energy that made him pace constantly. Now he sat with them, explaining the facility's layout on a tablet. The main transmitter control is in the central building, he said, fingers flying across the screen. But there are 3 backup systems. If we can reach any one of them, we can broadcast your signal. The hunters will be watching all of them, Deho pointed out. True, but they don't understand human systems. They'll be looking for a direct assault. Taman stared at the facility, an idea forming. What if we don't try to hide? What if we do the opposite? Everyone looked at him. We broadcast our position. Tell the world what's happening. Show them Kirith. Show them the hunters. Show them everything. Make this so public that the hunters can't just kill us quietly." "The hunters don't care about witnesses," Kirith said. "They've already killed civilians openly. But they care about efficiency." Taman pulled out his phone. "Right now, they're dealing with a few people who know the truth. What if everyone knew? What if millions of humans were watching, recording, analyzing? We're not a unified military threat, but we're millions of eyes and minds working on the same problem." Detective Sora caught on. "Crowdsource the solution. Humans are good at that. Someone out there will figure out something we can't." Minho, the taxi driver, grinned. "I like it. My daughter, she's always on those science forums online. Smart kids everywhere talking about physics and technology. Imagine what they could do with real alien ships to study." "It's risky," Kirith said, but she was smiling. "It's also insane, which means it might work." Taman opened every social media app he had. He started a live video stream pointing at the hunter ships. Then he spoke directly to the camera. "My name is Lee Taman. I'm in South Korea. Those ships you see are real alien craft. They're here to hunt someone I'm protecting. Someone who has proof that a hostile alien empire plans to destroy Earth in 5 years. We need to broadcast this proof, but we're outnumbered. I need help. Anyone who can see this, anyone who knows anything about alien technology or has ideas for how to fight back, please share this. Please help us." He posted the stream across every platform. Then he waited. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the view count started climbing. 10 people, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Comments flooded in. Most were confused or skeptical, but some were different. A physics student in Germany pointed out that the hunter ships had visible exhaust ports that might be vulnerable. An electrical engineer in Japan noticed the ship's shields flickered in a pattern, suggesting a recharge cycle. A military analyst in the United States identified weak points in their formation. The information came in waves, faster than Taman could process. "Jihoon, can you monitor this?" Taman asked. "Filter the useful information?" "On it." Jihoon's fingers flew across his tablet. "I'm setting up a shared document. Anyone can contribute. We'll sort the good ideas from the noise." Within an hour, they had a database of observations. The hunter ships used a specific frequency for their shields. They had thermal weak points. Their formation suggested they expected an attack from the ground, not coordinated strikes from multiple angles. Detective Sora made calls to her contacts. Military units were mobilizing across the country. They'd been holding back, unsure how to fight alien technology, but now they had data. They had targets. They had a plan. "The Korean Air Force is preparing strikes," Sora reported, "but they need a distraction. Something to draw the hunters' attention." "I'll be the distraction," Kirith said immediately. "No," Taman argued. "You're the only one who can operate the transmitter with your data crystal. We need you alive." "Then what?" Minho stood up. "I'll do it. I drive a taxi. I know how to get attention in traffic. I can get their focus." "It's too dangerous," Yuna protested. "My daughter lives on this planet." Minho's voice was firm. "I'm doing this so she has a future." They couldn't talk him out of it. Minho took his taxi, loaded with every explosive and flammable material they could gather, and drove straight toward the hunter perimeter. The live stream showed everything. The hunters noticed him immediately. They powered up weapons, probably planning to simply disintegrate the vehicle. But Minho was zigzagging, unpredictable, using every evasive driving trick he'd learned in Seoul's insane traffic. He got within 100 meters of their line before they opened fire. The taxi exploded spectacularly. Taman's heart sank, thinking Minho had died. But then he saw a figure running from the smoke. Minho had jumped free at the last second, rolling behind cover as the explosion destroyed 3 hunter ground units. The hunter ships turned their attention toward him. That's when the Air Force struck. Jets screamed in from 3 directions, firing missiles at the exact weak points identified by the crowdsourced data. The hunter ships' shields flickered, then failed under the coordinated assault. 2 ships went down immediately. The remaining 3 scattered, breaking their formation. "Now!" Kirith shouted. Their small group rushed toward the facility. Detective Sora and her fellow officers provided covering fire. Deho fought like a demon, his military training combining with captured alien weapons. Yuna stayed close to Kirith, ready to treat any new injuries. They reached the main building. Jihoon's access codes still worked. The doors opened. Inside, more hunters waited. The fight was brutal. Kirith was magnificent, even wounded. She moved through the hunters like a force of nature, using their own tactics against them. But there were too many. Taemin took a blast to his side. Pain exploded through him. He fell, his vision blurring. "Taemin!" Yuna was there, pressing something against his wound. "Stay with me!" "Go!" he gasped. "Get Kirith to the transmitter." But Kirith wasn't leaving. She grabbed Taemin and threw him over her shoulder like he weighed nothing. "Humans don't leave their own behind. I won't either." They fought their way deeper into the facility. Each room was a battle, each corridor a war. Behind them, Detective Sora and her officers held the entrance, buying them time with their lives. They reached the transmitter room. Jihoon was already there, having taken a different route. He worked frantically at the controls. "I need 2 minutes to align the dish," he shouted. "You have one," Kirith said, seeing more hunters approaching on her internal sensors. Taemin forced himself to stand. The wound in his side screamed, but he raised his gun. Daiho and Yuna flanked him. Whatever came through that door, they'd face it together. The door exploded inward. Commander Thexol stepped through. He was massive, even bigger than Kirith, his armor pristine and covered in battle honors. His golden eyes were cold as he surveyed the room. "Kirith," he said, "I taught you everything you know. Did you really think you could hide from me?" "I'm not hiding, Commander." Kirith stepped forward, placing herself between him and the others. "I'm making a stand. For these primitives, they're nothing, insects beneath our notice. They're people, something you never taught me to see." Thexal drew his weapon, a blade that hummed with energy. "Then you'll die with them, a traitor's death." Behind them, Jihoon shouted, "Aligned! Transmitting now!" The transmitter activated with a deep thrum that shook the building. Kirith's data crystal pulsed in response, sending its information across the galaxy in a burst of energy that couldn't be stopped or recalled. It was done. The evidence was out there. The Valorian Empire's plans were exposed. The Galactic Council would have to act. Thexol roared in fury and charged. The final battle had begun. Thexol moved like thunder given form. His blade swept through the air where Kirith had been standing a heartbeat before. She rolled aside, her own weapon meeting his in a clash that sent sparks flying. "Stay back!" Kirith shouted to the others. "This is my fight!" But Taemin had learned something in the past day. Sometimes the warrior's code was less important than winning. He raised his gun and fired at Thexol. The bullets bounced off the commander's shields, but they got his attention. He turned toward Taemin with contempt in his golden eyes. "Pathetic. Your primitive weapons can't—" Kirith struck while he was distracted, her blade cutting across his back. The shields held, but Thexol stumbled. He whirled on her, fury replacing contempt. "You fight without honor now? Using these insects as distractions?" "I fight to win," Kirith replied. "Like you taught me." They clashed again, moving too fast for human eyes to follow. Around them, the transmitter continued its broadcast. Outside, the battle raged. More Korean military forces had arrived. The remaining hunter ships were falling one by one as humans applied the crowdsourced tactics. Daiho grabbed Taemin's shoulder. "We need to help her." "How?" "Look at them. We're too slow." Jehoon suddenly spoke up from his console. Not if we change the field. His fingers danced across the controls. The facility has experimental equipment, electromagnetic pulse generators for clearing interference. If I calibrate them right... Do it, Taman said. Thexol drove Kirith backward with a series of brutal strikes. She was bleeding from new wounds, her regeneration unable to keep up with the damage. He was stronger, faster, more experienced. Everything the Empire had designed him to be. You were my best student, Thexol said, pressing his advantage. I saw greatness in you. You could have been a general, a leader of worlds. Instead, you threw it away for them. He gestured dismissively at the humans. For these short-lived mayflies who will be dust in a century. Kirith blocked another strike, but barely. They'll be dust, but they'll have lived. Really lived. Not just existed as weapons for an empire that sees them as tools. Weapons are what we are, what we were made to be. There's honor in that. There's emptiness in that. Kirith's marks pulsed brighter. I spent 3 months among humans. You know what I saw? A mother working 3 jobs to feed her children. An old man teaching young ones to paint. Strangers helping each other through disasters. They have so little time, and they fill it with meaning. We have centuries, and we fill them with conquest. Which of us is truly alive? Thexol's next strike came with all his strength. It shattered Kirith's blade and sent her crashing into the wall. She tried to rise but collapsed, too wounded to continue. The commander stood over her, his own blade raised for the killing blow. Then die alive, traitor! Now! Jehoon screamed. The electromagnetic pulse hit like a physical wave. Every shield in the room died. Every powered weapon shut down. For 5 seconds, the technology that made Valorians superior to humans was gone. It was enough. Taman, Deho, and Yuna all fired at once. Their bullets struck Thexol's unprotected armor, finding gaps and weak points. He staggered, wounded but not defeated. Kirith surged up from the floor. Without her blade, without her tech, she fought with her bare hands. This wasn't Valorian combat. This was brawling, dirty and desperate. Human fighting. She grabbed Thexol's arm, twisted it in a way that Deho had shown her earlier, and broke it at the elbow. While he roared in pain, she drove her knee into his throat. As he stumbled back, she grabbed a piece of her shattered blade from the floor. "You're right," she said, driving the shard into the gap in his armor. "I was your best student. I learned everything you taught me about combat, about tactics, about winning." The shard pierced his chest. Thexol's eyes went wide. "But these humans taught me something else." Kirith twisted the blade. "They taught me that the most honorable thing isn't following orders. It's choosing what's worth fighting for." Thexol fell to his knees. "The Empire will not forgive this." "I know." Kirith's voice was soft. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe we were never meant to be forgiven. Maybe we were meant to be better." The commander fell forward and was still. Kirith stood over his body, breathing hard. Around her, the humans who had become her family waited. Taman, wounded but alive. Yuna, with tears in her eyes, but determination on her face. Deho, his gun still raised and ready. Jehoon, standing by his console like a guardian. "Is it over?" Yuna asked quietly. Kirith checked her internal sensors. The hunter ships outside were all down or retreating. The ground forces were surrendering or dead. The transmission had gone out across the galaxy. "The battle is over, but the war is just beginning." Detective Sora's voice crackled over the radio. "We've secured the perimeter. Whatever you did in there, it worked. The hunters are running." Outside, emergency vehicles were arriving. Medical teams for the wounded. Military units to secure the area. News crews to document everything. The world had watched this fight in real time. There was no going back to the way things were. Taman slumped against the wall, his wound finally catching up with him. Yuna was there immediately, working to stabilize him. "You're an idiot," she said, but her voice was gentle. "Running into a fight with an alien super soldier." "Seemed like a good idea at the time," he managed to say. Kirith knelt beside him. "You saved my life, multiple times. A primitive human saving a Valorian warrior." "We saved each other," Taman corrected. "That's what allies do." The word hung in the air. Allies. Not servant and superior, not primitive and advanced, equals who chose to stand together. Kirith's data crystal pulsed one more time, confirming the transmission was complete. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was receiving proof of the Valorian Empire's crimes. Fleets would mobilize, sanctions would be imposed. The planned harvest of Earth would be impossible now, but Kirith knew her people. The Empire didn't forgive. Didn't forget. They would see this as a declaration of war, not just against her, but against Earth itself. The humans had humiliated them, exposed them, defeated their hunters. There would be retaliation. "What happens now?" Deho asked, voicing the question they all wondered. Kirith looked at each of them. These fragile, short-lived, beautiful humans who had taken in a stranger and fought beside her against impossible odds. "Now you prepare. The Council will help, but it takes time for galactic politics to move. The Empire will come back, and they'll come with everything they have." "Then we'll be ready," Taman said. He tried to sit up straighter and immediately regretted it as pain shot through his side. "We've already beaten them once. You barely survived, and that was just a hunting party. When the Empire comes, it will be with warships and armies." "Then we'll learn," Jihoon spoke up from his console. "We've already started analyzing the tech from the downed ships. Your people aren't the only ones who can adapt and grow." Yuna finished bandaging Taman's wound. "And we're not alone anymore. You said other species opposed the Empire. They'll have to help now that the evidence is public." Kirith wanted to warn them, wanted to tell them how brutal the Empire could be, how vast their resources were. But looking at their faces, seeing the determination there, she realized something. These humans didn't need warnings. They needed training. They needed time. They needed allies, and they needed her. "I'll stay," she said suddenly. "I'll help you prepare. Teach you what I know about Valorian tactics, weapons, weaknesses. If they're coming for Earth, you should have someone who knows how they think." "You'll be a traitor forever," Taman pointed out. "You can never go back." "I already chose that path when I stole the data." Kirith looked out the window at the stars beyond. Somewhere up there was the Empire she had served her whole life, the commanders she had respected, the comrades she had fought beside. But here on Earth was something new, something she'd never had before, a home she had chosen, a cause worth fighting for, friends who saw her as more than a weapon. "Besides," she added with that sharp-toothed smile, "someone needs to make sure you humans don't accidentally blow yourselves up learning to use alien technology." They laughed, the sound echoing through the damaged transmitter room. Outside, the sun was rising on a new day. Earth's first day as part of the galactic community, not as victims or primitives, but as people who had earned their place through courage and ingenuity. The easy part was over. Now the real work began. 3 months had passed since the Battle of the Radio Telescope, as the media had started calling it. Taman stood on the observation deck of what was once Seoul's old convention center. Now it served as the headquarters for Earth's newly formed Alien Relations Division. The city had changed. Buildings damaged in the fighting were being rebuilt with materials stronger than steel, courtesy of the Talaxian Federation. They had been the first to reach out after Kirith's broadcast, longtime enemies of the Valorian Empire. Their ships now orbited Earth, part defense fleet, part diplomatic mission. But they weren't the only ones. 7 different alien species had made contact in the past 3 months, some offering technology, others wanting to trade, a few simply curious about the humans who had defeated Valorian hunters with household items and crowdsourced tactics. "You look tired," Kirith said, appearing beside him. She moved quieter than ever now, having fully healed from her wounds. "I am tired. Do you know how many meetings I've had today? 12. 12 different ambassadors, all wanting to know Earth's position on galactic trade agreements." Taman rubbed his eyes. "I'm a software engineer. I should be writing code, not negotiating with species I can't even pronounce the names of." "You're good at it, though." Kirith looked out over the city. "Better than most career diplomats I've met. You listen, you find common ground. You don't let cultural differences stop communication. I learned from watching you adapt to humans." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The sunset painted the sky in colors Earth had always known, but now ships from distant stars shared that sky. "The first defense fleet launches tomorrow," Kirith said. 50 ships, built in 3 months using combined human engineering and alien technology. "Will it be enough?" Taman asked. "When the Empire comes?" "No, but it's a start." She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist device. "The Galactic Council has imposed sanctions on the Empire, frozen their assets, restricted their trade routes. It's slowed them down, but it won't stop them. They're building a fleet specifically to make an example of Earth." "How long do we have?" "Best estimate? 2 years. Maybe 3 if the Council's delays work better than expected." Taman pulled up his own data pad, reviewing the latest reports. "In 3 months, we've learned more about the universe than in our entire history. We've made alliances with 6 species. We've started building ships. We've trained the first Earth Defense Force in alien combat. And you've done it all while being recorded and analyzed by every species with long-range sensors," Kirith added. "Humanity's rapid adaptation has made you famous, or infamous, depending on who you ask." The door to the observation deck opened. Yuna entered, now wearing the uniform of Earth's Medical Research Division. She'd been working with alien doctors, learning techniques that had saved hundreds of lives already. "The Talaxian medical team wants to start the next phase of trials," she reported. "The regeneration therapy. If it works on humans like it does on Valorians, we could cure most injuries within days instead of months." "Risks?" Taman asked. "Unknown. We're not Valorian. Our biology is similar but different. Could work perfectly, could kill the test subjects." Yuna looked troubled. "I have volunteers, people injured in the attacks who want to help advance the research. But I hate not knowing." "That's the price of progress," Kirith said gently. "Every species goes through this when they join the galactic community. The learning curve is steep and dangerous." Deho arrived next, dressed in the black armor of Earth's Defense Force. He'd been promoted to commander, leading a joint human-alien security team. His units had already stopped 3 attempted infiltrations by what intelligence suggested were Valorian advanced scouts. "We've got movement on the lunar perimeter," he reported. 3 unidentified ships, not Valorian signatures, but not any of our allies either. "Show me," Taman said. They gathered around the holographic display. 3 sleek ships hung in space near the moon, clearly visible to the defense satellites Earth had deployed. Kirith studied them carefully. Sindarin design, mercenaries and traders, neutral in most conflicts, but they're not here by accident. "Hail them," Taman ordered. The communication came through quickly. A reptilian face appeared on screen, speaking through a translator. "This is Captain Rax of the independent ship Silent Prophet. We request permission to land and open trade negotiations." "What are you trading?" Taman asked. "Information, specifically detailed tactical data on Valorian fleet movements and battle strategies. We've been collecting it for years. Figured Earth might be interested given your situation. What's your price?" Access to your crowdsourced defense network, the one you use to defeat the hunter ships. That kind of collective intelligence is worth more than any weapon. Taman muted the connection and looked at the others. Thoughts? It's risky, Deho said, giving aliens access to how we think, how we strategize. But the tactical data could save lives, Yuna countered. We need every advantage against the Empire. They're mercenaries, Kirith added. They'll sell the same information to the Empire eventually. But that's months or years away. Right now, the data helps us more than them. Taman unmuted. Permission granted, Captain Rax, but we'll be monitoring your activities closely. Wouldn't expect anything less from the species that took down Thexal. The captain signed off. Jihoon burst onto the observation deck, tablet in hand and excitement on his face. You need to see this. We've been analyzing the technology from the downed hunter ships, the energy cores specifically. He pulled up complex diagrams that made Taman's head hurt. The Valorian power systems are incredibly efficient, but they have a fatal flaw. They need to be recharged at specific stations using specific equipment they can't manufacture in transit. Meaning? Deho asked. Meaning if we can map their charging stations and disrupt them, we can strand their fleet without firing a shot. Jihoon's grin was fierce. It won't stop them forever, but it'll buy us time. How do we map the stations? Kirith asked. We don't. The Galactic Council does. They have the data, but they're bureaucrats. They move slow. However, if Earth formally requests the information as part of our defense preparations, and if we can prove we have a viable plan, Jihoon trailed off meaningfully. Taman made a decision. Set up a presentation for the council representatives. Full analysis, complete plan. If they won't give us the data, we'll convince them why they should. The work continued late into the night. Earth had become a planet that never truly slept anymore. There was too much to do, too much to learn, too many threats to prepare for. Minho, the taxi driver who had become an unlikely hero, now ran a civilian defense network. Thousands of ordinary people organized into observation teams, emergency responders, and support units. Not soldiers, but citizens ready to protect their home. Detective Sora had been promoted to head Earth's internal security. She coordinated with local governments worldwide, ensuring that alien technology and visitors didn't disrupt society while still allowing progress. Every person who had fought in that first battle had found new purposes. They'd become leaders not because they sought power, but because they'd proven themselves when it mattered. Late that night, Taman found himself back on the observation deck, alone this time, just him and the stars. Kirith joined him silently. Can't sleep? She asked. Too much to think about. 2 years ago, I was just a guy writing code and living alone. Now I'm helping prepare Earth for an interstellar war. Regret it? Taman considered the question. No. It's terrifying and exhausting, and sometimes I'm sure we're going to fail. But it matters, really matters. How many people get to say their work might save their entire world? Not many. Kirith looked up at the stars with him. I've been thinking about that night. When I crashed through your balcony, you could have called the police, could have turned me away. Everything that's happened since then, it all came from that one choice. You gave me a choice. That's more than the Empire would have done. True, she smiled. You know what the other species are saying about humans? They're calling you the chaos factor, too unpredictable to calculate, too creative to counter, too stubborn to break. Is that a compliment? In galactic politics? Absolutely. Predictable species get conquered or controlled. Chaos is dangerous. Chaos demands respect. Below them, the city lights twinkled. Millions of people going about their lives, working, loving, fighting, dreaming. Each one a small chaos unto themselves. Together, they were something the galaxy had never seen before. The next morning, Earth's first defensive fleet launched. 50 ships crewed by humans and allies, armed with weapons both ancient and new. They took position around Earth and the Moon, a statement to the galaxy. We are here. We are ready. We will not surrender. Watching from the observation deck, Taman felt Yuna take his hand on one side, Deho on the other. Kirith stood with them, her golden eyes reflecting the ship's engines. "When the Empire comes," she said quietly, "it will be with everything they have. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of warriors, weapons that can crack planets." "But they'll be fighting us," Taman replied. "All of us, every human who refused to give up, every ally who chose to stand with us, every person who looked at impossible odds and said, 'We'll find a way.'" Kirith's marks pulsed bright with emotion. "I came to Earth as a fugitive. I expected to hide, to run, to eventually be caught and killed. And instead," Yuna prompted, "instead I found a home. Not the place I was born, but the place I chose. Not the people I was assigned to lead, but the friends I chose to stand beside." She looked at each of them in turn. "The Empire thinks it's coming to punish a primitive world. They don't understand what they're actually facing." "What's that?" Deho asked. "Humanity, in all its chaotic, creative, stubborn glory. And every species that's ever been stepped on by the Empire, now rallied behind Earth's example." Kirith's smile was fierce and proud. "They're not attacking a planet. They're attacking an idea. The idea that the small and the weak and the primitive can say no, can fight back, can win." Far above, the defense fleet finished its formation. On the ground, billions of humans watched and waited. In space, alien allies stood ready. And somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, Valorian sensors had already detected the unusual activity around Earth. The Empire would come, but Earth would be ready, not because they had the best weapons or the strongest ships or the most advanced technology, but because they had something the Empire had forgotten in their thousands of years of conquest. They had each other. They had hope. They had the stubborn belief that the universe could be better, should be better, would be better. And they were willing to fight for it. Taman looked at the woman who had crashed into his life and changed everything. "Thank you for choosing us." Kirith looked back at the human who had saved her life with nothing but courage and creativity. "Thank you for teaching me what it means to truly live." The sun rose on Earth's new era. The age of isolation was over. The age of alliance had begun, and whatever came next, humanity would face it the only way they knew how: together.